We're going to look now at the bird skeleton, and our example of a bird skeleton is a chicken. And it's not the greatest bird to use because obviously it's not highly adapted for flight, but it still shows some of the general principles. So when we look at bird skeletons, obviously they are very, very much adapted for flight. They're fantastic when you're looking at form and function because they really are beautifully adapted. They're the result of long, long periods of evolution from their modified diapsid dinosaur relatives. And most of their skeletal system is light, fused, and somewhat rigid. So we're going to start off by considering the axial skeleton, which is the skull and the vertebral column and the ribs. But we're just going to start off by looking at the skull by itself. So when we talk about the skull here, obviously it's modified in terms of it's very light for flying. There's lots of fusion between the bones. So if you looked at a bird skeleton, you probably can't make out the individual bones. And when we think about the beak here, the upper beak, which is really the equivalent of the upper jaw, we've got the typical kind of bones, the premaxillar, the maxillar, and the nasal. But they're all fused together. That makes up the upper jaw. And then the lower jaw is a fusion of about 5 bones as well. It's toothless, and the whole thing is very light. Extremely large eye sockets, very, very good vision in most birds. Large cranial cavity, usually pretty smart creatures. If we look around the eye here, there's usually a ring of bone. It's not actually present in this particular specimen, but it's the sclerotic ring, and it gives support and protection. And as I've already said, they have very large brains. If you were to look at the back of the skull just here, we'll find a single occipital condyle, which is articulating with the first cervical vertebra, which is the atlas. The nostrils are huge, just here, very large, on a typical bird skull. And those are holding part of the air sacs, which not only run through the nose region, but they run through much of the body, through many of the bones, and play a particularly important role in terms of respiration.